Overnight, 12 U.S. states have fallen eerily silent. Restaurants are closing their doors, hotels sit nearly empty, entire tourist towns feel like ghost lands. What's happening? It's not a natural disaster. It's not an economic collapse. It's something much quieter and just as devastating. The Canadians are gone, and this silent exodus is costing America dearly, day by day. Why did they turn their backs? And which states are feeling the shock the hardest? The answer may leave you stunned. Number 12, Maine, when cars from the north stop rolling in. Summer in Maine used to be a symphony of crashing waves, the hum of cars from the north, and joyful cross-border reunions. But in the summer of 2025, that rhythm broke. Coastal roads once packed with Quebec and New Brunswick license plates are now eerily empty. No more crowds pouring into Bar Harbor. No more bustling souvenir shops. Maine is facing a full-blown tourist drought, and this isn't just a temporary slump. From campgrounds to bay cruises, from family run-ins to seafood restaurants, many businesses have been forced to shut down early, or worse, haven't opened at all. Why? Travel costs have skyrocketed for Canadians. Gas prices have hit record highs due to geopolitical conflicts and global supply chain disruptions. A road trip from Montreal to Maine, once a budget-friendly escape, now drains hundreds of dollars in fuel alone. Add the weakening Canadian dollar, and every U.S. expense becomes painfully more expensive. Small towns across Maine that once thrived on this steady stream of northern visitors are teetering on the brink. The absence of Canadians has slashed revenue in lodging, dining, shopping, and wiped out seasonal jobs. The damage isn't just economic. Maine is also losing the cross-border connection that once made it a unique cultural melting pot. There's no easy fix, but if Maine doesn't act fast, through stimulus programs, road trip incentives, or bilateral tourism partnerships with Canadian provinces, this summer crisis could spiral into a long-term decline, shrinking an entire local economy. Have you ever had a memorable trip to Maine? If you're Canadian, would you still drive hundreds of miles here with gas and travel costs soaring? Or would you stay home instead? Share your thoughts, because right now, Maine needs to hear from you. Number 11, Florida reels from the quiet goodbye of Canadian tourists. Once hailed as the second winter home for millions of Canadians, Florida in 2025 is telling a very different story. Empty beaches, vacant hotel rooms, and restaurants closing earlier than ever. After a decade of steady growth, the state is now facing a sudden and unsettling plunge in visitors from the north, and the local economy is shaking under the weight of that decline. In just 1 year, the number of Canadian tourists visiting Florida has dropped sharply, from over 3 million to the lowest level since the pandemic. The cause? Not hurricanes, not global crises, but something deceptively simple: exchange rates. The Canadian dollar has weakened significantly against the US dollar, making trips to America financially burdensome. What was once a warm, affordable getaway now costs up to 50% more than just a few years ago, especially as hotel rates, food prices, and theme park tickets continue to rise. The consequences go far beyond numbers. Airlines have slashed flights from Toronto and Montreal to Florida. Resorts are seeing mass cancellations, triggering waves of layoffs, from servers and chefs to shuttle drivers. The car rental industry, which heavily relies on Canadian customers, is also suffering from plummeting revenues and excess inventory. The biggest concern? Florida may not just be losing money. It could be losing the long-standing loyalty of an entire generation of Canadian travelers. Without a recovery strategy, including more flexible visa policies and favorable exchange rate promotions, this sunshine paradise risks losing its place on the global winter vacation map. Number 10. New York struggles to breathe during peak tourist season. In upstate New York, where lakeside towns once thrived on the pulse of cross-border tourism, the summer of 2025 arrived with an unusual chill. Streets around Niagara Falls and Lake George, typically filled with Canadian footsteps on weekends, now feel eerily deserted. Giant parking lots sit empty. Restaurant tables don't require reservations, and motels dim their lights just to cut costs. According to the New York State Department of Tourism, the number of Canadian visitors has dropped nearly 40% compared to the same time last year. The problem isn't the lack of appeal, it's the lack of affordability. A weakened Canadian dollar has made everything, from meals to hotel stays, significantly more expensive. A short getaway to the U.S. has now become financially out of reach for many Canadian middle-class families. On top of that, tighter border controls and soaring gas prices have stripped road trips, once the go-to option, of their economic charm. But the issue goes far beyond empty sidewalks. In some small towns, Canadian tourists once accounted for up to 50% of summer revenue. When that flow vanishes, the ripple effect is brutal. Hotels slash staff, shops close early, and entire communities slide into economic decline. This isn't just a slowdown, it's a warning. Without swift and targeted solutions, New York's local tourism industry may not recover from this blow. Number 9. Tightened borders shake Washington's local economy. Once vibrant gateways for northern tourists entering the U.S., the Peace Arch and Sumas border crossings in Washington now paint a different picture, quiet, subdued, as if winter never left. In 2025, the number of Canadian visitors, which had exceeded 3 million the year before, has dropped dramatically. But the real concern lies not just in the numbers, it's in the empty chairs, the silent storefronts, and the fading local dreams. From Bellingham's shopping centers to once bustling outlet malls, all that remains are whispers of wind and dim lights over unsold goods. Gas stations, farmers' markets, and seaside restaurants, all once fueled by Canadian customers, are now considering layoffs. One gift shop owner sighed, "Weekends used to be our lifeline. Now we might not sell a thing all day." One major culprit: post-pandemic border protocols that have yet to be fully lifted. Stringent documentation requirements, health screenings, and long wait times have discouraged many would-be visitors. Add to that high travel costs and bureaucratic hurdles, and it's no surprise that many Canadians are now vacationing domestically or opting for Europe, where entry is often easier. Washington may still boast stunning nature and rich culture, but tourism needs more than beauty. It requires ease, access, and a genuine sense of welcome. And when habits shift and trust erodes, recovery won't take a season. It may take years. What do you think is pushing Canadians away from Washington? Is it red tape, high costs, or something deeper? And what should Washington do to win back their trust and their return? Number 8. Soaring costs push California's golden visitors away. California still looks vibrant. Coastal highways are bustling, the sun still bathes golden beaches, and tourism seems alive and well, on the surface. But beneath the glitz lies an uncomfortable truth gnawing at the state's economy. Canadian tourists, a small but high-spending group, are quietly disappearing. Unlike domestic tourists, Canadians often stay longer, spend more generously, and explore from San Francisco to San Diego. Yet according to the latest reports from state tourism associations, 2025 has brought a noticeable downturn in Canadian arrivals. Hotels are reporting booking drops of 15 to 20%, while coastal tour operators, restaurants, and souvenir shops are sounding the alarm over foot traffic, unlike anything they've seen before. The issue isn't the scenery or the service. The deeper problem lies in the plummeting Canadian dollar, making every purchase in the U.S. feel like a luxury. On top of that, a growing sense of political division between the two nations has left many Canadians feeling unwelcome. And they're asking themselves, why spend more to visit a place that no longer feels as friendly? The consequences are already rippling through the economy. Tourism budgets are tightening and thousands of service jobs are being quietly cut. If this trend isn't reversed, California, long seen as the symbol of the American dream, could lose one of its most stable and valuable international tourism markets. Number 7. Winter in Vermont, when snow-capped peaks fall silent. Each winter, Vermont welcomes over 600,000 international visitors. and Canadians make up more than 40% of skiers at major resorts like Stowe, Killington, and Jay Peak. But in the 2024 to 2025 ski season, that number has plummeted. According to the Vermont Department of Tourism, Canadian visitor numbers are down more than 35% compared to the previous year. The impact is immediate and visible. Many resorts have been forced to close midweek, and some have suspended operations entirely during the off-peak season to cut costs. Places that once felt like bustling winter festivals now sit quiet, with closed for the season signs hanging on restaurants, rental shops, and ski schools. Tourism-dependent towns are teetering. A survey by the Vermont Chamber of Commerce found that more than one-third of tourism businesses have reduced staff, and nearly 20% warn they may shut down permanently if the trend continues next season. The cash flow has dried up, the local job market is shrinking, and the threat of an economic permanent winter looms large. Vermont still has snow and scenic peaks, but when Canadians no longer choose to ski there, an entire tourism ecosystem risks freezing over, not because of the weather, but because their most familiar companions from the north have disappeared. Number 6. A historic tourism collapse. Michigan caught off guard. Once considered the weekend backyard for Ontario residents, Michigan is now facing an unprecedented tourism crisis. The once busy border crossings at Sault Ste. Marie and Port Huron have become eerily quiet. Ferries that used to be packed with tourists now sit idle. Duty-free shops, gas stations, bait stores, and lakeside resorts all are reporting a steep decline in business. Data from border towns reveal that revenue from Canadian tourists has dropped by 20 to 30% in just the first few months of 2025. This is no longer a seasonal dip, it's a sign of a long-term behavioral shift. Many motels are now closing during weekdays to cut operating costs. Small business owners who once thrived on cross-border spending now sit anxiously behind empty counters. And it's not just tourism. Everyday activities, filling up gas, buying groceries, or shopping for essentials, have taken a hit. That's because a large portion of demand came from Canadian visitors. Local governments are sounding the alarm. Without urgent action, a wave of traditional businesses may vanish for good. Michigan still boasts serene beauty by its crystal blue lakes. But that tranquility now feels icy, with boat engines silent and the border economy teetering on the edge. Can the next summer season breathe life back into these fading towns? Or will Michigan sink deeper into the shadows of forgotten travel routes? Number 5. Deserted Arizona. When Canada's snowbirds don't come back. A January morning in Yuma. The RV parks that once brimmed with Canadian license plates now show only a handful. A roadside diner employee sighs, "This time last year, I was working double shifts." Now, it's just the hum of the air conditioner and rows of empty chairs. 2025 marks a painful turning point for Arizona, a state once hailed as a winter haven for tens of thousands of Canadian snowbirds from Ontario, Alberta, and Quebec. These retirees and seasonal travelers, long known for fleeing harsh winters for sunny American skies, simply haven't returned this year. Their absence has triggered a domino effect. Mobile home parks and golf courses lie quiet. Restaurants, cafes, and tourist centers in places like Mesa and Sedona have been forced to reduce staff. Local data shows that short-term bookings have plunged by as much as 35% compared to last year. Those who once relied on this seasonal boom are now left with a haunting question. If no guests arrive, how will we survive? And this isn't just confined to a few towns. Airbnb hosts across Arizona are slashing prices and offering discounts, but many homes still sit empty. One host in Tucson shared, "I used to turn people away because I was fully booked. This year I've had a vacancy sign up for weeks, and no one's knocking." Arizona is still radiant with sunshine. But the chill this year isn't from the weather. It's from the silent, creeping fear that the state's winter economy may be slowly dying. And if things don't turn around soon, this winter may not just be cold, it could usher in a year-long economic freeze. Number 4. Las Vegas faces a service crisis behind the neon lights. Las Vegas still glows under the desert sky. Neon signs continue to flicker, promising excitement and escape. But behind the dazzle lies a quieter reality. Empty hotel hallways, vacant seats at casino tables, and canceled flights from Toronto and Vancouver, one after another. In 2025, the disappearance of over 1 million loyal Canadian visitors is delivering a harsh blow to Nevada's 24/7 tourism industry. Just last year, more than 1.7 million Canadians flocked to the state, mostly middle-aged and older travelers who didn't hesitate to spend on hotels, buffets, parties, and conventions. They were walking wallets for shopping malls, restaurants, casinos, and large-scale entertainment shows. But now, Las Vegas hotels are operating at only 50 to 60% capacity. Major international conferences are being postponed. Tipping, once generous at front desks and in limousines, has been cut nearly in half. "We're not just losing guests, we're losing the most generous ones," said a restaurant manager in Reno. "That's the money that helped many of our staff survive the off-season." Tourism experts warn this isn't a temporary dip. If the trend continues, Nevada won't just lose revenue. It could lose the very stability that came from having a loyal tourist base. Amid the spinning lights and casino buzz, a cold night is creeping in. And this time, not even the brightest lights may be enough to hide the crisis taking shape beneath the surface. Number 3, Texas loses visitors and an entire income season. It's February in Texas. The sun is shining, the highways are open wide, and roadside diners still keep their lights on. But something vital is quietly vanishing. The stream of Canadian travelers who once brought life and energy to Texas winters is no longer there. Just a year ago, over 1 million Canadians came to Texas. They drove RVs across the border, filled up on gas, dined out, and stayed for weeks, sometimes months. But in early 2025, that flow has plunged silently and without warning. Airlines from Calgary, Toronto, and Vancouver are reporting fewer flights. In Houston, Austin, and Dallas, the empty tables at restaurants and hotel lobbies speak volumes. And in rural towns, once sustained by snowbird traffic, the silence is unsettling. An RV park manager in South Texas shared, "Last year, we had waiting lists. This year, more than half the spots are empty. No one expected it to fall apart this fast. Local businesses are now cutting hours, delaying expansion plans, and bracing for bankruptcy if the trend doesn't reverse." Why the sudden shift? Partly due to high airfare and unfavorable exchange rates, but at its core is a growing sense of global uncertainty and a caution spreading through Canadian communities. Many no longer see Texas as the warm, familiar haven it once was. Texas may be vast, but this visitor exodus is no small thing. It's sending a cold wind through the state's seasonal economy. Once thriving on RV wheels and generous travelers who never needed a map to feel at home. Number 2, South Carolina, beautiful beaches no longer enough to hold them. The sun still shines golden over the white sands of Myrtle Beach. The waves still whisper to the shore like every year. But in 2025, there's an eerie silence, not from nature, but from the absence of people. South Carolina, and especially Myrtle Beach, was once a beloved winter escape for Canadians. From avid golfers and honeymooning couples to young families and caravans of snowbirds, Canadians used to pour in year after year. But now, the coastal streets are oddly quiet. Cancellations have surged, particularly for off-peak bookings, once a hallmark of the steady Canadian visitor flow. According to local business owners, many restaurants and shops are operating at just 50% capacity. Seafood joints that once required reservations now simply hope for walk-ins. Hotels, previously fully booked months in advance, are now scrambling to offer last-minute deals. It's a dramatic shift for a region that used to count on its natural charm to draw crowds effortlessly. The reason? It's not just inflation or travel costs. A deeper shift is taking place, one rooted in Canadian consumer sentiment. More and more travelers from the north are quietly turning away from U.S. destinations, driven by a growing sense of unease and a desire to explore alternatives. South Carolina hasn't lost its beauty, But it may be losing something far more valuable, the trust and habits of a loyal customer base. And under the blazing summer sun, the local economy is breaking into a sweat, not from heat, but from the growing absence of those who once came to bask in it. Number 1. Montana, losing loyal visitors as Canadians stay home. Along Montana's crystal-clear lakes and snow-capped peaks, the summer soundscape used to be filled with laughter, the hum of RVs, and the aroma of campfire smoke. But in the summer of 2025, the scene has shifted, quieter, emptier, and a bit somber. Montana has long been a paradise for nature-loving Canadians. With its proximity, mild climate, and breathtaking wilderness, it was the perfect getaway for northern adventurers. Whether for long fishing trips, camping through Glacier National Park, or tackling rugged mountain hikes. But this year, many campgrounds are reporting only 40 to 50% occupancy, and adventure tour operators are canceling departures due to a lack of bookings. A tour guide in Bozeman shared, "Every year, Canadian guests booked by March. This year, our calendar was wide open through midsummer. We got used to hearing their voices, and now it feels strangely quiet." The problem isn't just gas prices or inflation. At its core is a change in behavior. Canadians are choosing to stay home. Encouraged by a strong post-pandemic domestic tourism campaign, many are now discovering untouched natural beauty in their own backyard. And no matter how spectacular Montana may be, it's tough to compete when similar wonders lie just across their doorstep. For Montana, it's a quiet loss, but a profound one. When tents aren't pitched, when fishing boats no longer glide across the lakes, the local tourism economy faces an unplanned low season, and the uncertainty of when or if those visitors will return. In just one summer, America has witnessed a silent but seismic shift, a mass retreat by Canadian tourists that's left behind consequences impossible to ignore. From Maine to Arizona, Vermont to Texas, hotels have shuttered, restaurants sit half-empty, and entire communities built on tourism are losing their rhythm. This isn't just about Canadian snowbirds. It's a wake-up call for America's economic dependency and the fragile sustainability of its tourism industry. Sometimes a small change in travel behavior is all it takes to wipe out an entire season's worth of income. So, what needs to change to bring Canadians back? Have you been to any of these fading destinations yourself? Would you return if things became more welcoming and affordable? If this video gave you insight into the hidden cracks beneath America's glittering tourism facade, hit subscribe so you won't miss the next untold story.